And now for a Next News special report.
Tonight, a deep dive into a story that should concern every American. Chicago, once a thriving city, has descended into chaos, and its mayor, Brandon Johnson, seems to be crumbling under the pressure. The recent revelation that he was hospitalized for panic attacks amid the illegal immigrant crisis is a stark reminder of the dire situation. Imagine a city overrun by crime, plagued by violence, and struggling to cope with an influx of illegal immigrants. Now picture a mayor who's unable to handle the stress. A mayor who resorts to baseless accusations against Texas Governor Greg Abbott, deflecting blame instead of taking responsibility. So tonight we uncover the truth behind Mayor Johnson's hospitalization and the underlying issues that are plaguing Chicago. We'll examine the impact of the crisis on the city and its citizens. But most importantly, we'll discuss why leadership matters now more than ever, not just for Chicago, but for the entire nation. You don't want to miss our final thought on this critical matter, so stay tuned. Now, before we wrap up this eye-opening report, I do want to draw a parallel that hits close to home. Just like Mayor Johnson's inability to handle the heat of the illegal immigrant crisis, many of us are facing a different kind of challenge this winter. Think about it. Freezing out there, cranking up the heat comes at a steep cost, and experts have been warning us that heating bills are on track to be the most expensive in over a decade. With an astonishing 17% increase, that's an extra $1,200 in your budget. Now, it's a chilling reality. But just as Chicago needs a leader who can navigate the storm, you need a solution to stay warm without breaking the bank. And that is where this remarkable portable heater comes into play, offering a game-changing level of comfort while saving you money. It's time to get warm and do it for an incredible 55% off this new year, plus enjoy a risk-free 60-day money-back guarantee and secure checkout. Don't wait. Order now at getwarmnow.com. Now, Chicago, a city once known for its vibrancy and culture, is now in the grips of a crisis. Mayor Brandon Johnson, who was elected to lead and protect this great city, finds himself hospitalized for panic attacks. The reason? An illegal immigrant crisis that is tearing at the fabric of Chicago's existence. Two respected journalists, Kass and Anita Padilla, revealed this shocking development on the Chicago Way podcast. They spoke about the immense stress Mayor Johnson is facing as he grapples with a situation that seems beyond his capacity to handle it. Now let's take a moment to listen to their conversation.
The mayor's panic attacks? Oh, can we talk about that?
Yeah, can we talk about that? Because two sources told me that he has been in the hospital for these panic attacks, and he is stressed out because this is a big job for him.
He wasn't ready for it.
He's not ready for it. He is not ready for it. He's not a leader. I'm sorry. He's just not a leader.
He's not.
And, a leader, brings people up and supports them. And the Chicago police are still waiting to see where that comes from. But yeah, he put in a good superintendent, but I still think that he needs to prove himself to the police. Where does he stand on that? But this immigration issue, boy, this is not helping him at all, this situation. And, when you call yourself a sanctuary city, you call yourself a sanctuary state, guess what's going to happen? Don't blame Texas, because Texas, if you look at what they're dealing with, they have a massive influx. We don't even show the videos on television. The amount of people that are just standing around, and now they're desperate, because what happens when people don't have money or they don't have food? They start breaking into things. They start committing crimes. They start working for the cartels. They start doing human trafficking. They start becoming victims of human trafficking. So they had to do, what are they going to do with all these people? They had to get them out of their city. And, well, sanctuary city, you're the welcoming city, so you're going to get what you asked for, or what you said you were.
Anita, I never heard of anyone other than white socialist reporters and the Chapatistas, the hard leftists of Mexico that come up here. Those are the only people that liked the whole sanctuary city thing. I mean, most Latino immigrants didn't like it, as far as I knew. And they didn't care about it. They're just, leave me alone, let me work, let me take care of my kids, just shut up and get out of here. And now we're seeing the effects of this. It's a chaos, and these poor people are suffering. They didn't do anything. They're not the grandstanders and virtue signalers who demanded to be, we're sanctuary city, libertad. Nobody told them to do that.
Right. Meanwhile, the Chicago Teachers Union is spring breaking at the places where these people came from. And
Have you found have you found teachers from the CTU down in Florida? Are you going to do any interviews?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I should keep my eye out for them.
Yeah,
But
right.
I saw Elon Musk tweeted out a video of a Chicago press conference in the African American community, and they are upset with the mayor because who can blame them? All the things that they've been asking for, they don't get them, but the immigrants are getting them. What about the veterans?
Yeah, what about the veterans? So this paints a very grim picture of the man tasked with leading Chicago through these turbulent times. The illegal immigrant crisis is at an all-time high, and Johnson's inability to effectively address it has taken a toll on his mental health. But it's crucial to remember that the consequences of his inadequacy extend far beyond his personal well-being. Chicago is suffering, and its citizens are living in fear. Crime rates are skyrocketing, violence is rampant, and the influx of illegal immigrants shows no sign of slowing down. And Johnson's hospitalization is a clear indicator that he is not fit for the job. A leader should inspire confidence, offer solutions, not succumb to panic. But what's equally concerning is Johnson's attempt to deflect blame onto Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He's accused Abbott of orchestrating an attack on leaders of color by shipping illegal immigrants to Chicago and other Democrat-led cities. This baseless accusation not only reeks of desperation, but also showcases a lack of leadership. Watch.
Brandon Johnson says Texas Governor Greg Abbott is making a bad situation worse, with migrants continuing to arrive in Chicago as shelter space remains scarce.
Our political reporter Tamon Bradley is here now with more on the mayor's reaction to how these drop-offs have changed in recent weeks.
They sure have been, and Lord, as communication has broken down between Texas and Chicago. Buses full of migrants are arriving just about every day without coordination, and Mayor Johnson is not happy about it. Today, Mayor Brandon Johnson on the West Side celebrating the opening of a community reentry support center.
This country has had an addiction on incarceration, spending more on incarceration than we do to educate a family. But aren't you glad there's a new day in the city of Chicago?
Johnson's tone shifted from celebratory to frustrated when asked about the death of a migrant boy and rogue buses from Texas randomly dropping off new arrivals.
They're just dropping all people anywhere. Do you understand how raggedy and how evil that is? You're just going to put people on a bus and just take them somewhere and drop them off in the middle of the night?
Johnson administration officials say that migrants are no longer being dropped off at the city's landing zone and that buses are doing this in response to harsher penalties for bus owners who violate a new city ordinance. Last month, Chicago implemented new rules requiring buses arrive Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. in designated areas. But some buses have begun dropping off migrants in nearby municipalities. Mayor Johnson lashed out at Republican Governor Greg Abbott, the architect of the busing program.
We have a governor, an elected official in the state of Texas that is placing families on buses without shoes, cold, wet, tired, hungry, afraid, traumatized. The governor of Texas needs to take a look in the mirror of the chaos that he is causing for this country.
Meanwhile, the Johnson administration
pause that.
reports it's not using.
He needs to look in the mirror for the chaos that he's causing this country. It's absolutely amazing, the audacity of Mayor Johnson blaming the governor of Texas when Biden has a responsibility to protect our borders. The problem is clearly Joe Biden's inability to protect the border. Unbelievable. There's about 25 more seconds left of this news clip.
Police stations as emergency staging areas, with only a handful of migrants remaining. Also, the city impounded a bus that attempted a drop-off last week without a permit. As of this morning, there were 20 migrants at Chicago police stations, 220 at O'Hare, and 1 person at Midway. 13,992 people are staying in 27 active shelters. Lourdes and Ben.
Unbelievable. These accusations do nothing but further divide our nation. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, Johnson chooses to play the victim card and point fingers. It's a pitiable display of leadership, and it's clear that he's more interested in political theatrics than finding real solutions. But here's the underlying issue. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's decision to bus illegal immigrants from the border region to Democrat-led cities, including Chicago, has created a chaotic situation. Johnson has pleaded with Texas to stop sending these individuals north, but his pleas have fallen on deaf ears. Perhaps he should reach out to Joe Biden instead. Well, Abbott's tactics have not only burdened Chicago, but have also put immense pressure on other cities grappling with similar challenges. It's a crisis that requires cooperation and solutions, not political grandstanding, and it all stems from the White House. Chicago, once a proud sanctuary city, now faces the consequences of its own policies. As Anita Padilla pointed out, when you call yourself a sanctuary city and a state, you invite these issues. You can't blame Texas for dealing with a massive influx of desperate people who often resort to criminal activities to survive. Now, the consequences are far-reaching, from increased crime to human trafficking. Chicago citizens are caught in the crossfire and their safety is compromised. Johnson's inability to grasp the severity of the situation is alarming. As our nation grapples with immigration issues, it's imperative that leaders rise to the occasion. The lack of coordination between states and cities only exacerbates the problem as the White House turns a blind eye. While Abbott's actions may not be the ideal solution, it's clear that Johnson's approach is completely flawed. We need structure and coordination to address this crisis effectively. We just need to shut down the border. And Johnson's calls for Congress to act and provide resources may be valid, but they don't absolve him of his leadership responsibilities. And dropping off busloads of migrants in the middle of the night without proper support is not a solution, it's a recipe for disaster. In a statement, Abbott's spokesperson accused Johnson and Denver Mayor Mike Johnston of hypocrisy, highlighting the need for better coordination between all levels of government to respond to this mission. Chicago is in turmoil, and Mayor Brandon Johnson's hospitalization for panic attacks is a symbol of his inability to lead during this crisis. His baseless accusations and failure to address the illegal immigrant influx further compound the problems faced by the city and its citizens. Leadership matters, especially during challenging times. So maybe it's time for Johnson to step aside and make way for somebody who can effectively tackle the issues plaguing Chicago. The safety and well-being of the city's residents should be a top priority, not political posturing. Before we conclude, I urge you to stay tuned for my final thought on why this story matters to everyone. But first, if you found value in this report, please tap subscribe and let's continue the conversation in the comments. So in conclusion, the situation in Chicago is dire. Mayor Brandon Johnson's hospitalization for panic attacks during the illegal immigrant crisis is emblematic of his inability to lead effectively. This once proud city is now marred by rising crime, violence, and insecurity. And Johnson's response, marked by baseless accusations and political posturing, is deeply concerning. It reflects a lack of decisive leadership and a failure to prioritize the well-being of Chicago's citizens. Leadership matters, especially in a republic like ours. The safety and prosperity of our cities depend on leaders who can make tough decisions and put their constituents first. Chicago deserves better, and so does America, so it's high time Mayor Johnson maybe just step aside, allowing for leadership that can truly address the city's challenges, restore safety, and rekindle its once vibrant spirit. It's time also to shut down that border.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.